All right. So today I did a little bit, I've been doing a lot of work just on my own, off camera on the face. I still have, still work in the eyes. So I wanted to take some time to work on the hand area. This I'm happy with, but I do want to do some glazing to add some glow and warmth to the body area. So I'm letting it dry and then I'm going to do a glaze and I'll show you all about that on Thursday. Hopefully it's dry by then. But today I wanted to just work on the hand here, the areas that stress me out. Um, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to let me get a paper towel here. And my goal here is to just get another layer down and then do a little bit of glazing to deepen the darks and to create what to me what glazing does. Um and I'm using what it is it's taking a transparent color such as like alizarin crimson or transparent earth that I have on my palette, adding medium to thin it out, and then applying a thin layer of that in certain areas. And what I think it does is it deepens dark, it creates this deepening, this beautiful deep dark. So it darkens certain areas without me, there's a difference when you add in an opaque color over, it's kind of flat and dull. But when you add some transparency over, it creates this beautiful glow. It creates this beautiful feeling of depth and it just deepens the darks, but it doesn't flatten it. It allows for everything that you did underneath to continue to show through, but and when you think of skin tone, skin is transparent. It's just a bunch of layers of transparency until you get to the fleshy area. So I'm excited about that. This is still kind of tacky and wet, so I don't want to do it now, but I'm going to do a little bit of work in the hand area. This arm is really bothering me, and I feel like I sit with it and I work on it and I add information and I'm happy, but once I sit back and I stare at it for a while, I'm kind of like, ah. And what I'm noticing is that it's slightly off. And I feel like, and I should have, I didn't, and this is what happens. This is why I try to get the kinks out in the beginning, but I'm okay because I really haven't done any like detail yet. I was still just kind of blocking in information. What I think is happening here is that um, if I look at the reference photo, and it's funny because I wasn't seeing it. I just wasn't seeing it. And this is a perfect example of how we don't see things when we are creating and then we stare at it and we give it space and then we start seeing things. It's like us entering a pitch black room, and then if we sit in that room for a while, our eyes will start to get acclimated with its surroundings and you'll start seeing stuff, right? This is a perfect example. So this is what I think is happening here. When I look at the reference photo, what I see is that the corner, the elbow and the corner of the arm is almost aligned here with the eye area. And I'm going to be honest with you, I missed it. I missed it throughout through the entire process here. And this happens. It happens all the time. And this is why I say it's like Give your painting space so you can see. Condition your eyes to see. And it's not something that happens overnight. It takes time. And certain areas I can see a little bit better than others. But what I'm seeing here is when I look at the reference photo, this area right here is a little bit more aligned to the eye area. And so I think I need to, this area is a little off, and that's why it's making it a little off. And I keep thinking it's something over here. But when I finally saw it, and I was like, wait a minute. And I didn't see it before. But so what I'm going to do is I'm gonna have to adjust. I'm gonna bring the elbow is in its right space, right? The elbow is where it needs to be. This area right here should be a little higher up in more alignment to where the eye is. And that's where things are a little funky. So I'm going to make, instead of me, because this is where I've been like, something's weird here, but maybe it's not there. Maybe it's here. And so I'm going to adjust, I'm going to end up adjusting this, and seeing what happens, and then just giving it space, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm just going to take a look at that, and we'll see if that is the culprit. Is that the problem area? Even though I've kept thinking, oh, it's somewhere here. So yes, I do it. I still do it. I don't always see my wonkiness. I don't always see the mistakes. Sometimes it takes a while for me to see it, even after, once. And sometimes what happens is I start adding all the other puzzle pieces in the painting, right? I start adding the leaves, I start adding the background, and then I start seeing it more. It starts kind of the information. I'm starting to add more information. And when I'm adding the information, that's when it becomes apparent. Like I end up seeing it. So that's the case here. I don't, I think I was thinking of this angle here, but again, this is where I see. So we'll make that adjustment a little once I'm kind of done kind of doing some playing here. So the first thing I'm going to do, what I like about what's happening is that when I'm looking at the body area, and yes, I feel like the body area is a little too opaque looking. It's a little flat looking right now. And I think the glazing is going to help that. But what I do see is what I want to see is I want the hand to elevate forward. So the body area, which right now is in this very flat state, and I do want to add some color and some glowiness and transparency to it. So that we'll start building that up when I do the glazing. But I want the hand to maintain this value here because I like what's happening. So let's continue. Let's keep going with it. And let me set up my palette here so you can see what I'm doing. All right. So just get my little brush here. And so where I'm going to begin here is I'm just going to begin with the fingernails. And I'm kind of, the more and more I look at this, the happier I've become with it. At first, I was just kind of like, I don't like it. I don't like what's happening there. I'm using my kind of everything mixture, and I'm just going to go in and just tap in. So the fingernails look pretty light, but they're not going to be that bright. I don't want to make them that bright. And unless she has some white nail polish, right? I'm just going to just lightly tapping. Here. The fingernails are just not going to be so bright that, let me get my that other brush there. Boom. Where'd it go here? Okay. So they're going to be a little bit more muted. That's why I think the everything mixture works really well for the fingernails. What else? Another thing I'm looking at is around the fingernails. Now there's a lot of pinkness. There's a lot of pink, especially in, the tips of the nails. So I'm going to start in my line 4, because I'm not entirely sure, what value I want to put there. So I just kind of start in the middle. I do want to create a rosiness, like a rosy pinkish color. My palette's starting to get messy here, and I'm just going to pick an area. So I'll just start with the thumb area. So I definitely notice, or there's usually some pinkish. Let me just kind of scroll in here so you can see it here as I do the hand there. There's some pinkish right around the nail. That's the nail bed area, the skin that kind of sits, around the nail, right? And then you have this almost kind of transparent. I'm going to go down another level to line 3, do that same mixture. I'm going to add some of my everything color to that, because there's always seems to be this transparent pinkiness in the skin around the nail area. And again, skin has so much transparency. And sometimes if you look at the thumb, you've got the cuticle area, the area that's kind of surrounding the nail area. And then you have your knuckle areas where there's a lot of, I'm gonna go up to my line 5. There's a lot of kind of wrinkly things going on with actually I'm going to add a little bit of rosiness to it. A lot of wrinkly stuff going on, right, with the finger there. And everybody's different. I'm not worried about all the detail I'm going to also incorporate some of the burnt umber along the edge there. Very light. I'm just kind of tapping in the instance of those wrinkles there, or the little ridges and hills and valleys that make up the knuckle in the thumb area. Now the thumb only has one of those, it's got a knuckle, but the fingers have 2 areas of that kind of wrinkliness going on. And remember, each finger is its own little sphere, right? So I'm just kind of, and I know that this finger here is curving towards the chest area. I'm going to go in to my line 4 and just kind of creating that curvature there. to, give the impression that something is curving. I always kind of get the value a little bit darker, and I add that to the edge. Not like an outline, but just adding it to the edge of the shape that you're painting. Now this kind of looks weird. I'm going to go to my line 3. Just keeping a little bit of rosiness to my mixture here. And I'm just kind of lightly tapping in color here. I know that there's let me get some of the burnt umber here. There's a little crease. There's a little kind of crease of skin going on here, right? And it begins the shaping of this finger here, the pointer finger. I guess that's what you call it here. And then because that, we can see some of I'm going to get some of this kind of my King's blue here. And we see a little bit of shadow right here in this finger here. Again, I don't have a lot of paint on my brush. I'm just lightly tapping in color here, just very lightly. And it's always good to have your fingers handy because they serve as reference material. I'm going to go back to my line 3 here. And I notice the light here. Add a little bit of linseed oil here. It's kind of taking a look here. And it'll slowly, just again, I'm slowly adding information. Is the information always going to be right? No, because occasionally I'll have to make adjustments. The hand is pretty detailed. There's a lot going on with the hand. And it's always like you want to create, you're working the shapes and the values, the lights and the darks, but you've got this whole sphere is the hand, but then you got all the individual fingers, and you don't want the fingers to look like weird claws, right? You do want it to look like fingers. And, how do you get that? And I find that it's why I've always avoided hands. But I find that when I just try to break it up and I look at small sections and I stare and I kind of take a look at what's happening. What's happening in those areas? What is happening? What is the shape? What does that light shape look like? What does the dark shape look like? I'm going to get let's see here. I'm going to get a little blendy brush here. And I'm just going to go in and soften some of that shadow that I kind of applied in there. So I break the hand down into just manageable sections, right? And eventually, eventually I'll start seeing it. I just break it down, adding small bits of information at a time. Now I know that the thumb is kind of it's not pressing down, but you want to have this kind of look of that the thumb is resting on the chest area. So it's creating an indentation, right? An indent, right? So you want the skin to kind of look like it's just kind of forming around that indentation. And this may be a little too dark. So I'm just trying to soften up that shadow area there. Let me get some of my King's Blue because I love it. Just kind of add some of, I love mixing the King's Blue and the alizarin crimson in my shadow areas. So you'll have some shadow close to where the finger is, but you're kind of creating this shape. It's like the thumb is pressing, let me get out of so close to the camera, but there's my thumb pressing down onto, right? And you see what's happening, right? It's kind of, you see that there's some shadow. You see what's happening right there. There's some shadow and you see the indentation there of the shadow and the skin just kind of forming around it. It's all these things to think about. Stepping back to observe. I still think this is kind of too dark. However, I'm going to wait to kind of maybe glaze it and add a little bit of kind of glaze to that, and we'll see where that goes. I'm going to add just a touch. I'm going to go back to the fingernail. All right, so it's coming together. It is definitely coming together. So I'm just kind of creating that curve here, right? I've got the shadow going in there. I've got the leaf here, so there's going to be some shadow going on there. I'm going to take I'm on my line 5 and mix some of the burnt sienna with that to create some shadow, right? Because the leaf is resting over the hand area. So there will be a little bit of shadow. And let me see if I can zoom out there, if you can see that there. I'm also going to get some of the burnt umber here to just tap around here. Maybe add a little bit of the quinacridone rose and burnt sienna as well. I'm just going to tap around that leaf there and then get my little blendy brush and just soften that. Because the leaf isn't really pressing down on the skin. So we're not going to have that same indentation, but it is going to have some shadow. The skin will darken, and we do want to give that impression that this here is sitting on top of it, but it's not laying on. It's kind of a little bit elevated above the hand there. All right, keeping going. Now there's some lightness here. So I'm going to my line 3 here. Again, mixing the same colors. And I'm just seeing, okay, is that light enough? Do I need to get lighter? I think that works. I'm going to go down to my line 2. Again, mix that same color. Just get a little bit lighter. Just tap a little bit lighter in certain areas. A little bit of linseed oil. Slowly getting there. All right, I'm going to go in. I'm just going to take what's on my brush and just kind of begin the pointer finger here. Again, like I was saying, you've got the knuckle here, which there's a lot of wrinkliness, right? And then you've got another area right below the nail bed that has a lot of little wrinkliness as well, right? And each one of these fingers is its own little sphere as well. So you definitely want to kind of create that feeling. Right. And then here you have the other knuckle that's sitting right in the hand area, but you don't necessarily see it. It just kind of shows up as a little wrinkle here. And each, there's, you don't really see the pinky one, but you see the one that's here, here, and here, and the pinky one's kind of like right over there. I'm going to go back into my pinkish paint there and just kind of get that in. I'm kind of liking where that is right this second. Definitely will need to do a little bit of detail work, but I don't want to do the detail work right now. I'm kind of happy with that. I'm going to go back in and just kind of lightly just get in some shape here. It's definitely like coming together. Definitely like feeling like, okay, this is finally kind of looking like something. Definitely trying to give the impression that the fingers are slightly bent. Stepping back to observe. I go in and it's definitely, now it's starting to curve. What's happening is this is coming out and now it's starting to curve back in towards over here, towards the other side of the hand here. So I'm just kind of moving the brush in the direction here. A little bit of green on there. And we we have the wrist that's happening over here. And just add a little bit of linseed oil here and just kind of get this shape. This is kind of folding back in right towards the inside of the palm area here. And then I'll just go in with my burnt umber, a little bit of that quinacridone rose, some of the king's blue there to just add some shadow underneath there. Stepping back. And looking good. I'm happy with it. I'm going to keep it there for right now and let that sit. I definitely want to do some glazing in here, and I'll be reworking some of this area over here so it's not so dark. But I'm going to leave that where it is. And I'm going to do the big adjustment over in the arm area. All right, let me get my bigger brush here. So what I see happening here is that when I look at the reference photo, this dark here, this kind of fold, this in the elbow. So the elbow is where it needs to be, but this area right here, I'm going to add a little bit of this area right, you know, in the crease area. Is more aligned with the little bit of linseed oil, is more aligned with the eye area than down here. So I'm lifting this up here. Let me get my little blendy brush here. And I knew there was something wrong definitely was having an issue with the arm here. And it was bothering me. And I knew something was bothering me because it just wasn't coming together the way I wanted it to. So I'm here just kind of making adjustments here because looking at the shape here, and just lifting up that area there. And that might be, you know, I'm going to just do a rough kind of fix here. And then I'm just going to step back and just kind of stare at it for a while. But that might be, that might be the ticket. That might be what I needed to do to adjust this arm area. There's always a reason. Usually if you are, you know, something is bugging you, there's something wrong that's happening. It could be something, you know, you might think it's in one area, but it could be another area of the body that's making you see this area as really funky, but it's actually something else. And in this case, that's what was happening. And is this the fix that I need? I'm not sure yet. I'm going to give it some space. I'm going to, before I start, I want to do all the hair and the finishing, but before I start getting there, I just need to make sure that this is right. And I've been fudging with this for a while. So I want to make sure that, this is exactly where I want it to be. I'm going to go in again here. Kind of take a look here. I'm just going to add a little black, just a bit, not too much, to the mixture there. So that might be it. I'm going to my line 3 here. And I'm just going to, ooh, that's dirty. Get another brush here. And I'm bringing in that light again. I'm just focusing right here. And then I will kind of step back and just see if this is what, was this the issue that needed to be resolved? Still not really looking like it's, still need to kind of lift it up a bit. Still looks like it's in the same space. We'll get there. It still needs to go up a little bit more. And up there. And then this shapes like that. And then I think what I need to do is to reshape the shadow area here. I think that's what I need to do here. I'm just going in here and just kind of reshaping the hair and the shadow. Like so. And then we'll just soften it. And I think we're getting closer. We're getting there. All right, so I'm happy. I'm gonna stare at this for a little bit more. And then tomorrow I might go back and do a little bit more adjusting. I just want to stare at it. I'm happy with where all this is, so I'll let that dry. And Thursday I will do the glazing. So tomorrow I'm going to just kind of touch up this area. I might do a little, have to go back in with the background a bit to slightly reshape the arm in the background there. And what I want to do is I want to do a little bit of work tomorrow over here in the leaf area, because I think that will help me kind of get this story, get that going as well. So that's where I am now. I'm getting closer and closer. I'm really happy with where this is going. So I will see you tomorrow. I do a little bit of more work in the body area and get it ready so that I can glaze on Thursday. So I'll see you tomorrow.